All right, well, my name is Michael Wells. I'm a new resident of Augusta, Georgia. Got here February. My wife and daughter and I came here from California after 6 years with the United States Air Force. I am currently a senior developer with General Dynamics Information Technology out of Fort Gordon. And in my off time, I am the community chieftain for the CodeIgniter community. And that's why I'm here with you today, is to talk to you about CodeIgniter. So what exactly is CodeIgniter? CodeIgniter is an open source PHP framework. In fact, if you Google open source PHP framework, we are the #1 result. I also heard last week if you Google PHP framework, we're the #1 result, but I haven't been able to confirm that one yet. It might be a user tracking issue that it only returned that for that one guy. It is free, as in beer, as in rights. That means you can download CodeIgniter, use it for free, nothing's coming out of your pocket. You can also pretty much, I use as in rights liberally. You can do almost anything with CodeIgniter. The only thing you can't do is you cannot build a commercial blogging engine. And there's a reason for that. It leads into my next point. It is the guts of Expression Engine 2. Expression Engine is a award-winning content management system that was put up by Ellis Lab. Its preceder, P Machine, was probably the first blogging engine ever before it was even called blogging. And the reason you cannot build a commercial blogging application with CodeIgniter is because this is how Ellis Lab makes their money. They license Expression Engine, they provide a series of services around Expression Engine, like web hosting services specifically designed to work with Expression Engine. And you're kind of taking their eggs out of their basket if you compete against them using the code that built that engine. I mentioned Ellis Lab. That is the company that has developed and released CodeIgniter. They, like I said, they also do Expression Engine, which is the content management system. They have Engine Hosting, which is a platform that is specifically designed from the ground up to run Expression Engine websites extremely well. This company has 11 employees. It was founded by Rick Ellis in 2001, and that is a huge selling point for CodeIgniter, the framework. This isn't some framework that was just designed to, hey, can I build a framework? This is backed by a commercial company that 11 people rely on this framework and the things built off of it to put groceries on their table. It's not going anywhere. A little bit of history about CodeIgniter. Like I mentioned, in 2001, Rick Ellis developed P Machine. It was designed for Nancy Sinatra, that is Frank Sinatra's daughter. She wanted a way to keep in touch with her fans. And so he built this engine. He was freelancing at the time. I believe he was working as a music producer out of Hollywood while he was doing this. And gave it to her. She thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and Rick thought it was pretty cool too. Decided to clean it up a bit and release it commercially out to the world. That was in 2002 when it was finally released after he did a bit of cleaning up on it. P Machine was featured in Macworld, Mac Addict, as well as a book that was published by McGraw-Hill about blogging, whenever blogging was first coming up. And this is when Rick Ellis decided, you know, this software thing is really working out for me. I'm going to quit the music industry. And he formed Ellis Lab. And he actually hired his first employee 6 months after he formed the company. Now they're 11 strong, like I mentioned. In 2004, Expression Engine was released. This was just the successor to P Machine. It made it a more fully featured, well-rounded content management system, and it's really hit it off with the design market. How many of you have heard of Burl Peters? A couple of you. Her blog is ran off Expression Engine, as is numerous designers. It's extremely popular within the design community because it uses Expression Engine tags, which are really liberal, let you do whatever you want within the view portion of your website. So it doesn't lock you into anything. CodeIgniter was released in 2006. Now the interesting thing is they took Expression Engine, and they said, we got all this really great code, how can we help out the PHP community? So they took Expression Engine, pulled some pieces out of it, molded it into this awesome ball, and released it. So what you're getting in CodeIgniter is a portion of the code that makes Expression Engine work. And this is really cool because in 2008, Expression Engine 2 was demoed at South by Southwest by Derek Allard. He is a code architect, which is programmer in Ellis Lab terms. And at the demo, they mentioned that Expression Engine 2 is actually running off of CodeIgniter. So what was once the child of Expression Engine this child has been fully developed, good to go. This company is confident in its ability, and they're releasing their primary moneymaker based off of this. Some of the key features of CodeIgniter. If you Google CodeIgniter and if you do any research in PHP framework, probably the first thing you're going to learn about it is it has an extremely small footprint. It is fast. I have never seen a benchmark that CodeIgniter was not the fastest performing framework out there. As you can see, it might be a little small. This particular benchmark was performed last year, 07 timeframe. I believe all PHP, CodeIgniter, and Zen framework have all bumped up one version since this was done. But Cake PHP, CodeIgniter is 10.5 times faster than Cake PHP at rendering a page. All of these, the functionality of the benchmark was the same on every single, they basically built the same application for all three frameworks. Zen framework, we're almost 3 times as fast as Zen framework at rendering a page. We respond faster and we can answer way more responses per second. This particular benchmark here, they were both running, all frameworks were running on E-Accelerator opcode caching, which is what you would do on a real server anyways. It's PHP 4 compatible. Now, the big move right now is everyone's trying to get off of PHP 4 and go to PHP 5 because 4 is not supported anymore. The unfortunate truth is, if you look at the red dots across the top of the screen, this was from October of 08, so the latest results I can get. The red dot's flowing down. That is the percent of servers currently supporting PHP 4. And then the purple line going up is PHP 5. So PHP 5 undoubtedly has taken the lead right now, but by not supporting PHP 4, you're kind of ostracizing about 45% of the web hosting world. So LS Lab has taken the stance that we're not going to ostracize half of the community, and we're going to support PHP 4. The good thing is CodeIgniter has a splitter to where if you're running PHP 5, it's going to run with PHP 5 features enabled. It makes it faster, more feature rich. If you're running on PHP 4, you don't have to change anything in your code. CodeIgniter's smart enough, it's going to figure it out, and it'll just work. It has a database abstraction layer. This is really cool. Let's say you're building, I use it a lot whenever I'm working with other developers. That way, because it's hard to run version control on a database. So you develop locally with SQLite. That way the file is part of your file system that you're running version control on. And then once it's time to push it out to the real server, let's say you run MySQL, SQL Server for Microsoft Wax, you don't have to change any of your code. It's just going to work. You don't have to change a single thing. Another really good thing that I find helpful is I get to think in PHP mode all the time. I don't have to switch back and forth between PHP and SQL. CodeIgniter, you write it in PHP, it translates it into SQL and generates that query string for you. Global XSS filtering. With the rise of Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, we've seen a new type of worm really get out there. It is the JavaScript worm. Most people don't know how to prevent this. A lot of applications out there, you can throw a pop-up. If you're echoing out in user input, I'd be willing to say probably 60% of the sites I go to, I can make an alert box pop up every time. That's dangerous because that JavaScript is now running on your domain as your domain. CodeIgniter with a Boolean, it's called global filtering. You flick it from true to false, false to true, and you can turn on global XSS filtering across every single form field in your application automatically. If you have a certain requirement that you don't need this filtering, of course you can do filtering on a per form field basis. Say you're building like a pasty or something like that, then you don't have to have it on. That's another good thing about CodeIgniter is it doesn't lock you into any decisions. You get to make whatever decision you want. They just provide the tools to make that decision easier, and things like this where all you do is switch false to true and you've got a pretty decent level of security in regards to this attack across your entire application. SEO-friendly URLs. I think we're beyond the days, I don't have to explain to you why you don't want to have a question mark, this variable equals that, and this variable equals that, on and on and on and on. Search engines don't like it. CodeIgniter automatically by default, your URL is going to be domain/the controller, which is your controller class, / the method, and then any variables beyond that. Of course, we have a URI routing class where you can easily define whatever you want. So I can make this michaelwells.com / RefreshAugusta, and I would just have to write a route to tell it, okay, if you ever experience this particular regex pattern match, go to this controller and method and run that. So by default, really good search engine friendly URLs. You can make it whatever you want. You can switch it back to the question mark, variable equals variable, blah, 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 if you want to. I've experienced a lot with jQuery is some of those plugins that you use are gonna want that query string method. And so sometimes you will have to turn it on. It's infinitely extensible. Almost every single class and function provided by CodeIgniter can be overwritten, change its functionality without hacking on the core. You never want to hack on the core, because then when it's time to upgrade to the next version of CodeIgniter, now you got to go back and put all your hacks back into that. So you have CodeIgniter here, your application here, and if you want to rewrite the routing controller, go for it. You never have to touch CodeIgniter itself. Some of the things I use this for on every single project I do: automatic discovery of partial views. That way I can have a layout that defines the basic structure of my entire application, and then based on the controller method that the user is currently at, it will automatically discover which partial view to load within that layout. I also automatic discovery of models. That way I don't have to put in a load model command. It'll just, if you look at the bottom right corner, that's a loading a model there, this load model. You could use this extensibility to overwrite CodeIgniter's default model class, run your own model class that will automatically load a model based on URI scheme, day of the week, color of your hair, whatever you want. Rasmus Lerder at FOSSCon 08, he gave a presentation that pretty much slammed every PHP framework out there. He said, y'all suck and you're all slow. But he did say he found CodeIgniter to be the lightest framework out there and that it didn't impose too many restrictions. If he had to choose a framework, he would choose CodeIgniter. If you don't know who Rasmus Lerder is, he's the creator of PHP. He's now a very highly paid infrastructure architect at Yahoo. So we're going to go through a little bit of code real quick. The concept is you're building a blog engine. Not a commercial blog engine, because that's against the rights, but just a blog engine. And by commercial blog engine, I mean a blog engine that you write and you put up and you license and you sell to everyone. It's within your right to write a blogging engine for a client if that's what they want. You can do that. You just can't release it publicly for $100 a pop. So in this example, we're building a blogging engine. We're just going to build the main page right now. 10 posts, reverse chronological order. This is what every single CodeIgniter model is going to look like. If you look at the top, we're within the models directory. CodeIgniter has a default setup that lets you put your files in the right place. You always stay organized. Model view controller separated, which I don't really need to explain why that's the best way to do things. This particular model is called post.php. You can name it whatever you want. It doesn't lock you into any sort of file name. I personally choose a singular noun as my models. Every model is going to extend the parent model class, that is the controller, or I'm sorry, the CodeIgniter model class within its own constructor right off the bat. We actually get into one of the functions of this model, is getAll. We're going to order by, and this is using that database abstraction layer I talked about earlier. We're going to order by the post date descending, and then we're going to run this get method of the database class. That is what actually performs the query on the database, sends it to the database server, gets a response, and it actually forms the rest of the query that you haven't defined already. If you notice, I didn't define what I'm selecting. By default, CodeIgniter is going to select everything, but we have a select method within the database class where you can define certain fields. So I'm running get post. That first parameter there is a string that just represents the table you're calling. 10 is your limiter. I'm getting 10 posts, and 0 is the offset. I just want to start at the first row you return. CodeIgniter, the database layer, also includes a ton of helper functions, one of which is numRows. So right here, we're checking at query numRows, just making sure that we got more than 0 rows. If so, gather up the result into an object, throw it back to whatever called it. If not, return false. This is just my personal way of going about things. I always return false if it doesn't turn out as I expect it to. And then I'll handle that later on in the view, like showing them a no posts message or something like that. This is our controller. In the controller subdirectory, the file name is posts.php. Once again, my own convention, plural noun. That's how I do it. You can do it however you want. Just like the model, we're calling CodeIgniter's controller class within our own constructor. And then function index. Index is it's a special function. This is the default function that would run if a method is not given within the URL. So if I'm at michaelwells.com/posts, this runs. You don't have to define index. We're loading up our model. That's the first thing. Obviously, I didn't include my automatic discovery of models class that I hold so dear to my heart in this. But that would load up the model that I just showed you on the previous slide. Then we create an array, data, post. You can name the array whatever you want. And that's going to hold all the information that you're throwing out to your view. You have to specifically define what the view is going to be able to see. It doesn't get to see everything. And then we call that getAll function from the model that I showed you earlier. We load up a view that is the third part of MVC. We're going to call a file called home, and we're going to pass that data array to that view. And finally, our view. Once again, in the views directory, not hard to figure out here. And I already told you we're loading the home file, so it's view/home.php. The top and bottom, of course, you would have your HTML, your header, your body tags. I just kind of ran out of room on the slide here. The first thing you notice, this is just HTML and PHP. There's no fancy templating engine, although if you want to, you can do it. CodeIgniter doesn't force you to do anything in a specific way. Tons of people have thrown Smarty in there. CodeIgniter actually comes with its own template parsing class. I personally don't use it because I'm a PHP developer. I don't need it to be dumbed down for me. I understand what's going on here. And I just don't see the point in adding another layer of processing and slowing things down to my project. First thing we're doing, we're looping through all the posts that our controller asked our model, give me all the posts, and now we're going to loop through all of them. Normally, of course, like I said, you would have, if the post equals false, handle that appropriately right here. We're going to echo out our title. Title was a field within our posts table. CodeIgniter automatically built our object up smartly. You just referenced your column name right there. Excerpt, once again, that is just a column within our table. And then echo, anchor, slug, read more. This is showing off one of CodeIgniter's many helper functions. Earlier I mentioned the SEO-friendly URLs. Depending on where your user's at in your application, if you had to build a relative link from page to page, it could get pretty confusing. So CodeIgniter is going to take care of it automatically for you. You just use this anchor function. The first parameter is the slug is the URI segments that you want CodeIgniter to use to build your link. In this case, we're using a slug for our specific post. At the bottom, you can see example.com/ and then the slug for this post. The second parameter is just the text of what that link is going to say on screen to the user. And then there's an optional third parameter where you can pass an array of HTML attributes like your title or your class or anything like that. CodeIgniter spit it out to the screen, it'll build your link appropriately, it'll never be wrong. You will never experience a 404 using that. Any questions? All right, well, I'm Michael Wells. There's the URL on Twitter. I'm on it all the time, so thank you. Good job.